Hey everyone, let's take a look at installing Kali right there in your Windows operating system. Now, the reason you might want to do this is because maybe you don't have the most awesome, wonderful computer that has a ton of processors or cores and also a ton of RAM. So when we look at this particular system here, we see this CPU right here. We got the CPU utilization. It's an i5, it's a 12th gen, and it's got 12 cores in it, which is fantastic. Logical processors is actually what will show up in a VM hypervisor type 2, such as VMware or VirtualBox. So this machine, no problem. Run VirtualBox on it. I've got plenty of cores to give it, and I can take a look here at RAM, and you'll notice that, wow, I've got plenty of RAM space to give it as well. I've got 20 gigs of RAM. That's why I spec these out this way for our labs so that people could start up several VMs all at once and not have a problem with performance. But many people don't have that on their own system. They've got, 4 or 6 cores. And then on top of that, they've only got 8 gigs of RAM. And so once you install something like VirtualBox, which takes memory to run on its own, then it's going to half that for your operating system, and things get really sluggish. And it just may not work that well because of that. So this is an alternative method. You can actually install Kali right in your Microsoft OS. And this has been around for a while, but obviously it's best if you have Windows 10 or 11 moving forward. So what I've done is I've just gone to the Microsoft Store. That's our first step. And if it doesn't show up there, just type in store and it will come up. So you want to get to the Microsoft Store, and then my controls are in the way. And then you want to type in Kali Linux. So you want Kali, and that's going to do a search. And here it is, Kali Linux. Now you'll notice there's a bunch of other Linuxes too. There's Arch, which is pretty small, Ubuntu, which is going to be bigger. I haven't ever used Penguin, but there it is. There's Alpine. There's quite a few that you can actually use within Microsoft. Now let's go ahead and hit get on that so we can start that downloading. Now you may wonder why. Why are all these available? Well, Linux, of course, is the place we go for many, many IT tools and nearly everything in cybersecurity. And so if you're doing those kinds of things, there's a good chance you're actually just going to have Kali Linux running on a notebook and it won't be Windows, right? And Microsoft is not going to like that. They want you to be using Windows. And so they have provided a method for being able to have Kali running inside of Windows. And again, the benefit to that is the fact that it's running through Windows. You're not actually having to say, let's take these CPUs and give it to this system. Let's give this RAM to this system. Let's have a 20 gigs of hard disk space that we're giving to this system. It's actually just a part of Windows. So I'm going to let this run. This is going to take a little while right here. It's telling us how much it's got to download. But let me just point out that what it's downloading is the very, very slim version of Kali. If we go out to Kali.org, there's different versions you can download, and this is the slim version. Microsoft is not assuming you want to take up a ton of space with it, right? So that's why we will update Kali and then add more to it. Because if you want the tools that you normally would have, especially those that you use in these different labs, you're going to need to update it to get those tools. So we'll go ahead and pause it. I'll start this again once we have it downloaded. So Kali Linux here has been downloaded, and you can see now it says open. Now Kali is now on your start menu, so you can actually see it there, and we can launch it from there. But since we've got the store open, we can just click open on that. Now I'm going to close this. I'm going to close the store down. And then this is what we see. Installing this may take a few minutes. Then it says, oh, this register distribution failed with an error. And it says the Windows subsystem for Linux has not been installed or not been enabled. We need this subsystem in order to continue. All right, so I'm back. You don't need to search for it. That's why I searched for it, so you can just follow along here. This is the command we need, the WSL -- install, and we're going to run that at the PowerShell prompt. So I'm going to come down and type PowerShell is what we want. It's the top one. And because I copied that, I can paste that in. And let's see if we get an error. Doesn't look like we do. It actually says, hey, Windows subsystem for Linux. Are you sure you want it to do this? And we go ahead and say yes. And there it goes. So now this is installing the virtual machine platform for the Kali to run in. Okay, so we are back. Let's go and see what happens when we type in Kali again and try to run it. Now it's not giving us an error. It's saying that it's going to install Kali. So at this point, we downloaded that Kali app. It's enter a new Unix username. So at this point, you are creating an account within Kali. I'll just do my name and a new password. Retype it. Make sure that you know what that password is. It's updated successfully, and there you go. So Kali is installed. There we are. There's nothing to list out in my home directory. But yeah, you're running Linux right now. There's my James directory on Windows. Now we're not quite done yet. So we're going to move on to the next section, which is this is really just a very, as it says, minimal install of Kali. So if you want to do something more, you got to go here and take a look at what to do, which is what we're going to do next. Let me control click that and pull that up. It gives you some information on, okay, well, maybe you want these meta packages that are going to help you. Basically, a minimal install of Kali Linux is not going to have all of the tools that you would normally get. So when you go out to kali.org and you decide to download, minimal install is there. You can actually just download it there and put it into, a virtual machine through VirtualBox. But it doesn't have the tools that you're used to using in class. So right here, it's telling us, okay, well, the first thing you're going to need to do is make sure that this is updated. So we're going to do an update using apt. So I'll go over to my Kali and just type in, what was that? Yeah, apt update. So that's going to go out and take a look. There we go. And now it's going to do an update. So it's going to take a look at what packages are currently installed and just update those packages. And it's important that we follow what this is saying, right? Now, another thing here that popped up, once this subsystem for Linux is installed, you do get some general information about this way of doing things. GUI apps and how those would run and whether or not you want GPU acceleration and all that. We don't really need all that for what we're going to do, but I did want to point out, hey, that pops up for you and it basically gives you information about running Linux inside of Windows, even more than what we're doing here. All right, let's jump back over. That's going to take a while, so I will pause it and then we'll issue the next command. All right, so we're back. Here it is. It's done. It finished it. All packages are up to date. So I already grabbed, I'm going to grab the next step. I'll just paste it in there. Full upgrade, yes to all. So back over to Kali. There it is. The next step is going to give us more tools. This is the default, right? So install Kali Linux defaults. Everything we would have got in the default package. Now, this is going to take a while. So I'm definitely going to pause it on this. You'll see percentages running through here, but that's just the percentages of getting just these things. So at this point, you're grabbing all of these tools.
that are part of Kali. You had a few of them prior to this. This is grabbing all of them. If you wanted a list of that, you'd have to go to Kali.org and just take the minimal install, and they'll show you. If you go to that page, it'll show you this is what's installed, and then on the default what's installed. And then the last thing we're going to do once this finishes is you can actually add more to Kali. So by the time we're done with this step, which is happening right now, you really have Kali in the way that it was installed in a lab here at EAC, or that you went and downloaded and installed in a virtual machine. That's what you have. But I'm going to show you how to add some more tweaks. Now, if you're expecting a graphical user interface, it's not going to do that. So just to point it out, you're going to be at the command line. But nearly everything in Kali, as you already know, dumps you to the command line. So you click it in that graphical user interface, and then it just dumps you into the command line. And now you type it. Most of the time, that's what happens. It's like, well, let me just open a terminal for you, and then it lists, this is what you got to type, right? That's what happens. So that is a drawback. If you really are looking like, no, I want to see the graphical interface, and yeah, you go the VMware route, you go the VirtualBox route, you go the Parallels route, you go the UTM route. All those are different hypervisor type 2s that you can use. You go that route. If you want something that's slimmer, something that doesn't take up as much space, this is the way to go. Okay, so let's jump back over to my Kali stuff. Once my updates are done and I've got that set up, when you set up a virtual machine, it doesn't matter if it's a VirtualBox or VMware or whatever it happens to be, or it's this, it's going to put whatever that machine is in its own NATed network. And that's for security reasons. And that's fine. Straight out of the box, you got Kali installed. It depends on the tools you're using, right? You really think through this. If you're trying to use a tool that is footprinting a website, then that's going to work. It's not going to have a problem because you just have to go out and hit that site, and it'll pull that data down and put it in your Kali. However, if you're saying, no, I want to go down to some network, I want to test my own network, and I'm going to scan my network, well, you can't do that in any virtual box or anything or this, because it's NATed. So the only thing you're scanning is yourself on a little tiny network. So then you have to go in and tell it, bridge the adapters. Right. So whether you're in VirtualBox, you have to bridge those adapters. And if you're here, you have to bridge those adapters. And I'm going to include this. I'm going to copy this in just in case this website disappears. But basically what you do is you have two processes that this describes. You're going to go in and you're going to select whatever network. It's like Ethernet here. And you're going to select that. You're going to highlight it. You're going to hold shift down. And you're going to highlight the V Ethernet WSL right on this one. And then when you right click, you'll be able to see bridged, and you'll bridge those. Now, to make it easier, they mention this, and this is true. So I'm going to show you how bad this is by not following their instructions. What you want to get to is where those network adapters are, right? You want to see those. Well, the further we go in time here, or the closer we get to today, Microsoft has made it really hard to find that stuff. They've done some thinking and trying to say this is what you're looking for, right? So I want to get to those network adapter settings, and where are they? I guess under advanced, it says view all network adapters, hardware connection properties. Oh, no, that's not it. Where is it? Is it under one of these? No, that's edit, that one. I guess I could go to edit. It's probably going to pull up a whole nother thing. Like, where in the heck can I just see the network adapters? So what they have you do, and this is the easier way, go to Control Panel, and then you'll come down to your Network and Sharing Center, and then right here, change adapter settings. And there it is. So you would click here, and then click, I did my Wi-Fi, whatever one you need to do, I did the Wi-Fi. And then when you right click it, you don't see it on mine because I've already done it, but there'll be bridge adapters, and you hit bridge adapters and it creates that little icon. And basically that's done in Windows. Now the rest of it, to make sure that the Kali Linux VM is on the same network as you, all happens at the prompt. Hey everyone, you can see my face there on the screen, just frozen in time. It's actually because this is a video and I've stopped it where I need to explain what's going on, because it was just getting too choppy off of the Windows machine. So in any case, let's bring you up to speed. So basically, you have gone through that process of creating a network bridge by highlighting the Windows Linux subsystem interface card that has been created in the network adapters, and whatever network adapter you're going to be using, whether that's Wi-Fi or wired, you've selected those two, and then you just hit bridged, and it bridges those adapters together. So basically what that means is whatever broadcasts that are happening in Linux are going out to your network, and whatever broadcasts that are happening on your network are going to Linux. However, Linux doesn't have the correct IP settings, and so you run these set of commands to make it happen. The sudo IP address flush gets rid of any IP settings that it has. Now within your Linux terminal, Ethernet 0 is the one that's been set up. It's basically the fake card. And so you're flushing that information. You're getting rid of whatever it had, and you have to do that. Then here you're actually telling it, look, add an IP address to Ethernet 0. And what that IP address depends on what network you are actually on. So most private networks are set to 192.168.1. Here at EA, mine is 192.168.50. So you want this IP address on the correct network. So you need to know what is Windows IP address. And then basically choose one that's way up there, because most networks don't have, even 200 devices. So if you're selecting 244 or 250 or whatever, you're fine. And then the /24 is 255.255.255. That's what it's doing. So it's setting the IP address for Ethernet 0. Then right here, you're just showing that, just to check to see if it went through fine. And then here you're saying, okay, well, for this link, we need to set that Ethernet 0 to up, meaning we need to turn that on, just in case this process turned it off. Normally that doesn't happen. Normally it will just stay up, but this is a good thing to put in just to safeguard, just to say, okay, well, let's make sure it's up. That Ethernet interface is running. And then you need to add a route. So in other words, this is like going in graphically to the IP4 settings on your network card in Windows and setting that up, except you don't have this graphical interface to do it. You got to do it at the prompt. So it knows what IP it is, but it doesn't know how to get to the internet. And that's what this is doing here. You're setting this up saying, hey, look, I want to add a default route. I know it's always crazy the way they put it, like sudo IP route add default. That's because of the command, right? This is the IP command, and you're using route and then putting these switches on. So route add default via, so the default route is going to go out through whatever the gateway address is, or your router's address. So usually this is correct. This is usually what you want to do. Again, here at EA, I've got 50 here. So 192.168.50.1 would work here. And then what device are you using? Ethernet 0 is what you're using. And then this command is just saying, okay, let's take a look and see if that happened correctly. So show the route, and you will find that that's what it says. The last two are just to check, can you ping your router and can you get out on the internet? Once this problem is solved, you now can see everything on your network inside of Kali Linux. That bridged adapter is bridging over everything, and you can now run a sniffer or whatever you need, and it will be available. As a matter of fact, from your Windows PC, you could ping whatever number you gave it and vice versa. So that's what this is all doing. And you're just issuing those commands. And as I've copied them in there, you could copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste, and go through it. But you need to understand logically what's happening. You're getting rid of the IP. You're assigning an IP that's valid on the network that your Windows is on. And you're doing that to Ethernet 0, which is what it should be. Then you're showing that. Then you're going to, make sure the link is up. Then you're going to add a default route so you can get on the internet. And that should be your router address, your default gateway. That's what that is. Then you're going to show it just to see that it did it, and you will see that it did it. And then you're going to test it. All right, that is really the last settings for making sure all of this functions and works. Once you have that working, you should be able to run any tools, and you'll have a wonderful time in Kali Linux.